Okay, the big focus on a day when the Supreme Court refused to grant bail to Siddique Kappan, a journalist who's been accused in the Hathras case, has once again raised the question about the manner in which bail and hearings are granted to those like Arnab Goswami versus a host of others who are languishing still in jail or waiting for justice to be served. And many top legal minds are weighing in on this burning debate. One of them joins me, Sriram Panchu, a highly respected lawyer. He practices in the Madras High Court. He was also part of the Ayodhya mediation panel, and it's great to have him. Thank you very much, Sriram Panchu, for joining us. We don't hear from you much. You largely stay under the radar. But tell us, what is it about all of this that has agitated you to write a piece? You actually wrote a piece in the Hindu saying, "Protect our republic, my lords." What provoked you?
Thank you, Srinivasan. Thank you for inviting me to your program. Let me make it clear at the outset that, I have nothing about Arnab Goswami getting bail.
Sure.
If a court looks at the case and says, look, the facts don't make out the charge, then that's the end of the matter. The man should be set free instantly without any technicalities or, go to another court. Go through the process again. Once a court comes to a decision that there is no case made out on the facts as alleged, he should be out. So I have no issue with that.
Right.
What is disturbing is the fact that this case received, a breakneck speed. It goes through two courts, the Bombay High Court, the Supreme Court, all in the space of a few days. It's mentioned, it's listed, it's heard. And I have no problem for justice to be delivered that way. But the question is, when you have so many other cases, both of people under detention for far longer periods, and when you have so many cases of vital public importance, which are awaiting the court's time, how do you justify speed tracking this one case?
Right.
So I'm not so much, as I said, against this case, but I want to draw the court's attention to the fact that, look, my lords, we are agitated. We are agitated, we are concerned that there's so many, the important cases of CAA, Kashmir detention, 370. Right. You've just left them languish. You have cases of people in detention. For what? You have Varavara Rao. He's there for 2 years. Sudha Bharadwaj, social activist, PUCL General Secretary, in jail for 2 years. And, in detention, not after conviction, and in detention, under, extreme conditions of hardship. These are people, aged people. One is in the 80s. One is, I think she's 59.
Right.
Suffering from numerous ailments. And look at this, Stan Swami's case. The man is 83.
Yes.
He's got a host of ailments, renal ailments, heart ailments. He suffers from Parkinson's. He cannot lift a glass of water to drink. And he has to go to court to say, please give me a sipper or at least a straw.
Yes.
And that court and the NIA, files, says we want 3 weeks time for a counter. And a judge gives 3 weeks? What on earth is going on?
What would you say, Mr. Panchu, to those who would say that in the case of someone like Arnab, it was a case of abetment to suicide, while in the case of many of the others you cited, the charges were more serious, like under the UAPA, the anti-terror law?
It's not a question of that. It's not a question. Abetment to suicide is a pretty serious charge, if you ask me. But that's not the point. The point is, as I said, in Arnab's case, the court looked at it and said, look, the facts don't make out the charge. He should be out. For the others, you look at the case and say, well, they've served under detention for so long. Why should they be incarcerated pending trial? That's the point. It's not that just because you're charged in a certain offense, you can't get bail. Of course, you're entitled to bail. And the court, when granting bail, looks at numerous things. Are you a threat if you're let out? Can you hamper the investigation? Are you going to flee? These are the considerations. So it's an entirely different set. You can't just say, oh, it's a serious offense, therefore don't give bail. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so the offense is really not the factor here. But now you actually raised from this what you think are a series of disturbing questions. One of them was that, and you say this in your piece, that has the court done the one thing which separate and equal judicial arm never does, and that is to cease being the counter-majoritarian check to a powerful executive.
Yeah. So let me explain that.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Finish your question.
No, I actually just wanted you to explain that. What did you mean when you said that?
Right. In a democracy such as ours, the court plays a very important role, not just as an arbiter of disputes between people and organizations. The fundamental role a court plays is its constitutional role, and that consists of one of protecting our fundamental freedoms, and the other is acting as a check against excessive, against abuse of power by the executive and unlawful acts by the legislature which are against the Constitution. And this is very important to understand. This is, I see, is the principal role of the court in a democracy such as ours. It is even more important in our country because we have majority, we have minorities, we have several minorities. We have privileged sections, we have underprivileged sections. It is the minorities and the underprivileged which get hurt when you have, large majority in power which thinks it can trample their lives. And that's when you need the court. So you need the court for our constitutional way of life.
Yes.
And a court necessarily must keep the executive in check. When there are executive acts which are alleged to be unlawful, a court should inquire into it. The more serious the act, the sooner the court should inquire into it.
Right.
And the court should not only, act as it should also be seen to act.
So is the point? So when you say in your piece that is the court ceasing to be a counter-majoritarian check to the powerful executive in the context of these cases? Because look, the implied or not so implied subtext here is that someone like Arnab, as we know, is seen as a blatantly pro-government voice, while many of these others who are languishing behind bars are critics of the government.
No, that statement was not made in the context of individuals like Arnab or the others. It was made in the context that you are not hearing these cases of CAA, of Kashmir, of detentions. You didn't get to grips early enough with, with the migrant movement. That statement is made in the context of those cases.
Right. But do you see that as a concern? That, is there, because when one sees this kind of selective approach, that here is somebody who's seen very much as aligned with the ruling regime, gets an immediate hearing, walks out on bail immediately. The judge says very important things about liberty and freedom of expression and all of that, but that doesn't seem to apply to others who are, as we know, well-known critics of the regime.
I think I've made that point already, Srinivasan, that, I have no difficulty if you want to fast-track one case, but please fast-track all other cases.
Right.
Fast-track and take up these significant, everybody is talking about these cases. When people say, look here, you have imprisoned civil activists.
Yes.
We all know the 5-6 cases which are being mentioned.
Right.
How long does it take a court to take up those cases? The court must heed the voice of public opinion and say, yes, we must be sensitive to this. What are people, after all, asking us to do? Nobody is saying release them.
Right.
You're saying take up the case, please, and hear them.
Which is actually how you sort of end the piece, because let's also look for what's the way out, what's the solution. So the solution is it, as you're saying, extend the grace of your early hearing to these people, to Varavara Rao, Sudha Bharadwaj?
That's all, yes, that's all. Extend the grace of your hearing to them. Understand that, these are notable cases where people are concerned. And the public is concerned about their continued detention and concerned about the fact that the cases are not being heard. Something comes up, it goes off to some other court, is denied relief for some reason or the other, which doesn't quite meet the, the test of justice.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just ask you in conclusion, because you've been practicing for so many years, what do you think has brought us, what is the reasons behind this? Why are we seeing this kind of worrisome asymmetry?
That's a very broad question, Srinivasan. You need a whole discussion for that.
Is there a short answer?
Well, if you look at it from the judicial arm, I would say we should seriously relook at this whole method of appointment of judges and how a judge comes to the Supreme Court
Okay.
And this question of, whether the senior most judge should become automatically the Chief Justice. I
Okay.
think these are important things we got into, but this is amongst a host of other things.
Okay, it is a broader conversation. I agree with you, and we'll definitely get into it.
And a critical conversation, an extremely critical conversation.
And a critical conversation.
Yeah.
But just very quickly at the end, have you in your time ever seen the Supreme Court or the higher judiciary operate in this mode, where there are serious questions about the independence, about whether they are truly holding the executive to account? Have you ever seen this in the past?
I was around when the emergency was on, yeah.
Okay, so
and I never want to be at that time when we just stood in despair.
Right.
I was a student of the government law college, and I remember, when we got that judgment in ADM Jabalpur,
right,
where 4-1 the court said that a citizen doesn't have his fundamental freedom of liberty.
right,
Sat on the steps of that college in utter despair, holding our heads down in despair.
Right.
I never want anyone to visit that time again.
Okay. Well, amen to that. Let's hope that never happens. But thank you, Sriram Panchu, so much for joining us. Thanks very much indeed.
You're welcome. Thank you.